So you're wondering if you should upgrade your HDMI 2.0 cable and move on to, HDMI 2.1 for your PlayStation 5. Well, stick around for this video right here. I'm going to be talking about the differences, even if there are any differences between HDMI 2.1 and HDMI 2.0 cable as regards the PlayStation 5, because I did a test. I compared using both of those cables. I'll tell you one thing right now, HDMI 2.1 is better than HDMI 2.0. That's a guaranteed, it's an upgrade. That's how it's supposed to be. When you upgrade something, it gets better than what it was before. Do you need to upgrade right this moment, or do you need to just keep those cables that you already have and use them with your PlayStation 5? I'm gonna answer that question in this video right here. Okay, so there's been a lot of raving about the new PlayStation 5's HDMI 2.1 input and all of its benefits. In order to harness all of the benefits, all of the potential, everything from it, you need to get an HDMI 2.1 cable as well as an HDMI 2.1 TV. So a TV with an HDMI 2.1 input is also going to be needed. So all three, everything in the chain has to be HDMI 2.1 for you to be able to, play at 8K or at up to 8K quality, 60 hertz, like high frame rate. So gameplay will be sick. It'll be a lot smoother, no choppiness, because that's the thing. When you play at lower frame rates, it tends to feel a lot choppier. That's all it is, man. But if you play at a higher frame rate, things are smoother, fight scenes, things like that. It's just so much better. That's all I'm saying. Playing at a high frame rate means that you lose quality. The HDMI 2.1 input allows you to be able to play at a high frame rate as well as a high resolution. So that's the good thing about it. But the thing is, if you have an HDMI 2.0 cable, you can still, harness some of the potential of the HDMI 2.1 input on the PlayStation 5. So you can use an HDMI 2.0 cable. But if you have an HDMI 2.1 TV and an HDMI 2.1 PlayStation 5, so those two things, once you have those two, you might as well get yourself the cable, because that's the only missing piece right there. But if you have, say, your TV is HDMI 2.0, it's still like 4K HDMI 2.0, which is also fine. It's okay. It's okay. It doesn't mean that you're not going to get anything out of it. You can go ahead and use an HDMI 2.0 cable. You can keep that as well, because you don't need to upgrade it. Or you can go ahead and upgrade to HDMI 2.1 cable regardless, because you're still going to have to do it eventually. The thing about HDMI 2.1 cables is that they're backward compatible, and that just means that you can use them with older systems. So older HDMI 2.0 inputs, it'll still work with them. It'll give you some of the benefits, like I said. Like you can play at 4K 60 hertz. Like I played Spider-Man Miles Morales using both cables. Like I used them in two different scenarios. So I used them with the TV that had a HDMI 2.1 input as well as the PlayStation 5's HDMI 2.1 input. So I played on fidelity mode, which is 30 frames per second, as well as on performance RT mode, which is 60 frames per second. While I had everything with HDMI 2.1. The cable was HDMI 2.1, the TV was HDMI 2.1, and the PlayStation was HDMI 2.1. I wasn't playing any games that were up to 120 frames per second, but if I did decide to play any games that were up to 120 frames per second, this would be the ideal setup. So if you want high frame rates and high quality, like up to 8K, future-proof and all that, make sure you get an HDMI 2.1 TV, an HDMI 2.1 cable, as well as your PlayStation 5. Okay, so the other test that I did was with an HDMI 2.0 cable and the same setup. So I took out the HDMI 2.1 cable and swapped it with an HDMI 2.0 cable within the same setup. So 2.1 input TV and 2.1 PlayStation 5. And what happened was there was no difference. I did not notice a single difference, which is all right. You're gonna need a game that goes all the way up to 120 hertz so you can play at 120 frames per second. And like I said, there's not a lot of games out there right now. So as we get there, then you might want to, upgrade. But this video is about right now. The next test I did with a different TV this time. So I did it with a HDMI 2.0 input TV. I used the HDMI 2.1 cable and I used, the PlayStation 5. So this time we had one HDMI 2.0 input and two HDMI 2.1, devices like the cable and the PlayStation 5. On the monitor, it looked good. Nothing changed. I did not notice a difference between the gameplay 30 frames fidelity mode on Spider-Man Miles Morales and 60 frames per second. I did one more test. So with the same monitor, the HDMI 2.0 input, I decided to take out the HDMI 2.1 cable and swap it with an HDMI 2.0 cable. This time we have HDMI 2.0 monitor input, HDMI 2.0 cable, and the PS5 was the only thing in this chain that had an HDMI 2.1 output. The HDMI 2.1 output from the PlayStation 5 still passed across the 4K quality as well as the 60 hertz performance. I was able to play at 30 frames per second and 60 frames per second and still notice the effects, even while thought the only thing that had HDMI 2.1 was the PlayStation 5. That's my test, and those are the results. The ideal test would honestly still be when you want to play at 8K resolutions and when you want to play 120 frame rate games. So like I said, there's not a lot of games like that yet. I need it to be all the way at 8K 120 frames per second to be able to really test the PlayStation 5's ability, you know, using that HDMI 2.1 output. So telling you right now that you will be fine. If you used an HDMI 2.0 cable, you'll survive. If you want to upgrade, you might as well just do it. There's going to be links down in the description for picking up HDMI 2.1 cables, because I don't see the point in picking up HDMI 2.0 cables. It's old. It's not something new anymore. So why would you want to go ahead and pick that up? Go ahead and grab an HDMI 2.1 cable and just upgrade your systems. Those things are honestly not expensive. That's all I've got for you guys in this video right here. I hope you guys found this one useful. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're new to my channel. If you enjoy videos like this one and want to see some more like it, make sure to check out the video on the screen right now, and I'll catch you guys in my next video. It's your boy Midas, and I'm out, y'all.